News Talk Radio 710 KNUS introduces the Private Label University, the only show that dares to unlock the secrets to your online selling success so you can start making money and living your dreams.
I want to be a billionaire so freaking bad.
With over 35 years of sourcing, private labeling, and importing products for the big chain stores and coaching thousands of entrepreneurs, all while building their personal businesses. Let's welcome our Private Label University hosts, the fabulous, lovable, and cutest dynamic duo, Karen and Neil Gwartzman.
Welcome to the Private Label University. We are your hosts, Karen and Neil Gwartzman, and this is where we unlock the secrets each week to your online selling success. So visit us over at www.privatelabeluniversity.com, where we offer a ton of free content and where you will find our 8-week Import Success Formula program, the formula to sourcing and importing products so you too can start selling products on Amazon or online and start making the money that everyone's talking about. And while you're over there on our website, leave us a message or a question and we'll answer it on the show. So we love to start off each show with an Amazon find. We help so many entrepreneurs source and import products so they can sell on Amazon. And we too love to shop on Amazon. So Neil, what amazing find did you find this week?
Well, this was an amazing find because someone actually got me one as a gift, and I was so happy with the gift they got me that I went on Amazon and bought a few more to send out as well. And this was a wooden crocodile mannequin. A wooden crocodile mannequin. So it's about 16 inches long. It's kind of like a funky looking crocodile, but it is flexible. Its head you can move, its legs you can move. It's made out of solid wood. It's really nicely carved out and finished. And the nice thing for me is I put it on my desk and I have my business cards all along its back right to its tail on display. So when people come in, when I have meetings and clients, I just take one right out of here and they say, wow, where'd you get that beautiful business card holder? So,
and I love it too because you got me one, and I put my mail or the bills from
that
the
has
mail.
to go in there. Yeah, so you can use
there.
it for photographs. You can use it for business cards. If you're a Gators fan living down south, it's an amazing gift to have. But it really is unique looking. It's a conversation piece, and I went on Amazon. It's $14.99, free delivery. I ordered a few of them. The people that I sent it out to absolutely loved it, and when I told them, they said, "Wow, where can I find it?" Of course, find it on Amazon. So if you just go to Amazon and you look under wooden crocodile mannequin, it was 16 inches long. I think the number's up there as well. But wooden crocodile mannequin, $14.99. It really is something unique. If you're in an office and you have a nice wooden desk, or even in a room, an office building, or maybe you're a doctor, or maybe a veterinarian. Mm-hmm. Think of that, having it on their desk with their business cards or information pamphlets.
Anywhere, really. It's really cool.
Yeah,
it's
it's
nice
a great
looking.
conversation piece, and it looks great. And for $14.99, you can't beat it. You can't, walk into any gift shop and find something so unique. So I was really happy with it. I know a lot of the friends that I bought it with, they also wanted one. And you can paint it. Actually, someone sent me a picture. They had hand-painted the one that I sent to them. And they put it in, it was almost an Eskimo-style painting on it. And this is a friend of mine who's in business in Alaska. And even there, where, of course, you don't have many gators, he said everyone comments on it. And, again, he was so happy because he sent it out to an artist, an Eskimo artist or a native artist who hand-painted it. And I think they're going to either try to – there's no reason to make them out of stone because they can just order them on Amazon. That's the greatest thing. So $14.99, the wooden crocodile mannequin on Amazon.
I love it. I love mine.
Mm-hmm.
So we have one at home and one in the office.
And one in the office, yes.
Perfect. So today's show is all about customs and importing and exporting products. And today we have a very special guest with us. So Neil, why don't you do us the honor and introduce Scott Blizzard to everyone?
We are so honored. We have Scott Blizzard. He's an executive licensed United States customs broker. And he's been in the field for over 35 years. So he has over 35 years of experience in international importing, exporting, and has worked for some of the largest firms in the nation for apparel and textile and food and specialty products. He's been hired by some of the most respected custom firms in the nation and is always on active duty, consult and work with some of the leading importers in North America. And Scott, I checked out his bio. He truly is an expert in fields such as textiles, museum work, sensitive products. And for many logistics and freight companies, he's their leading expert. He's their consultant to go to when there's any questions. And he's worked with customs officials in the East Coast and West Coast, as well as legal teams that set the laws for United States Homeland Security. So he's an amazing individual. He has a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of experience, and we are extremely honored he is here. We know he has an extremely busy schedule, and he's on demand all the time. So we are so happy that he's here. So thank you so much, Mr. Blizzard, for being here today.
Welcome.
Thank you, Scott.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So I'm sure over the years you must have seen so many strange items in the country being exported, being imported. There's so many changes going on with new laws and new regulations, and with Homeland Security. You're involved with that. So I guess I'm going to start off with some basic questions. You're considered a licensed U.S. customs broker. So what really does a U.S. customs broker do?
Well, that's a good question. Varied things. Basically, we are licensed by the federal government. We have passed a test saying that we know and we're familiar with the regulations for importing goods in the United States, and that we will uphold the government laws, and whether it's financial or compliance, admissibility, different things. What we generally do on a day-to-day basis is help our clients stay compliant when they're importing products into the United States. And that could be not only with U.S. Customs, but FDA, EPA, DOT, and I think there's about 47 government agencies that could come into play with importing in a product.
Wow, so you really are involved with all aspects of really any type of product. When you mention EPA and FDA, I think of pharmaceuticals and cars and engines and really everything. And I guess you really have to stay up to date on everything that's happening with all the changes, don't you?
You do, absolutely. And just like in the medical profession, when everyone's a specialist, we tend to be the same way in this profession. It's difficult to know everything, from, like, as you mentioned, motors to pesticides to textiles to pharmaceuticals to, food products. It's many different laws, come into play. I won't say that we're attorneys. Certainly we're not, and wouldn't say that we are. But there's a lot of technical expertise that needs to be known and to be compliant with all the agencies. So you will find that people tend to specialize in certain areas.
Mm-hmm. So in some ways you're the agents behind the agents. You're like the go-to people when the customs official agents need information or really want to know about commodities that are brought in. You're kind of the go-to person because you see so many of these products and you have to, I guess, clear them for or help your clients get them cleared. You have to know about these products, don't you?
We certainly do. A lot of it, clients probably get upset, sometimes because we ask so many questions. They'll take something. They're importing some shirts, men's shirts. Well, we have to know other things. Is it knit? Is it woven? Is it cotton? Is it a man-made fiber? Is it long sleeve? Is it short sleeve? Is it button down? Many different things. And just to say that I'm importing men's shirts isn't enough. So yes, we we do work with customs. If they have questions, certainly they come to us. Happens all the time. They want more information. But if we're doing our job correctly, then we have asked those questions up front, made notations on documentation that is provided to customs on behalf of that importer, so that there's a smooth transaction. But yes, we do have to ask a lot of questions, and usually we find that the commercial documentation provided with an import shipment is not usually sufficient, unless it's someone that's done this for quite a long time.
And I guess, and from what I'm told and what I see is, you have to stay up to date, just like doctors and attorneys are always going to seminars to keep up to date with any new laws. It's the same way with a customs broker. I think that's what sets apart the good ones and the bad ones, where you really have to be up to date on what's happening with commodities that are being brought into the country.
No, and that's very true, very true. We attend many training seminars, webinars, newsletters. The attorneys are great for sending out newsletters with different, happenings in the field, changes with the government or different agencies, things that we all need to be aware of. The National Brokers Association has an education arm or division, if you will, that puts on training courses as well. And the regulations they've been under revision for several years now, and Customs had to put in their new computer system, so that kind of took priority. But they are actually going to be writing into the regulations where licensed brokers need to have a continuing education. And exactly how that will be defined is yet to be seen, but it's something that's coming very soon.
That is amazing, great information that you're sharing here. We need to actually take a quick break, but we will be right back. We are Karen and Neil Gwartzman with the Private Label University.
News Talk 710, KNUS. Are you ready to kick that sugar addiction, reduce belly fat, and still enjoy delicious sweets and breads? Yes, it is possible. Recipe for Wellness is a company that is run by Karen Russell, a world-renowned certified health coach and nutritionist with over 20 years of experience working with the most challenging health issue facing our society. Karen has figured out the secret to a healthier life for all of us without sacrificing sweets, and offers very yummy products like cookies, brownies, and breads that are actually healthy for you. That's right, cookies and bread that are not only delicious, but healthy too. If you're ready to lose weight, increase your energy levels, sleep soundly, reduce stress, take control of your health, and not have to give up sweets or bread, then visit recipeforwellness.com. That's recipe, the number 4, wellness.com. Again, to shop online for delicious and healthy sweets, visit recipeforwellness.com. Start living your healthier life without guilt today.
Would an extra $1,000 a month, $5,000 a month, or even $10,000 a month help you live a better life? It doesn't have to stop there. People just like you are making thousands of dollars selling products on Amazon. The best part is, it's simple. All you need is a product. Karen and Neil Gortzman, creators of Private Label University, are here to show you how. How to find that perfect product so you can join millions of people and start making the money that everyone is talking about on Amazon. Private Label University unlocks 35 years of secrets about sourcing, importing, and private labeling products for big chain stores. Karen and Neil truly believe in you, so much that they'll invest $500 towards your tuition in the Private Label University program, the Import Success Formula. Go to Karen and Neil's website at privatelabeluniversity.com and enroll in the Import Success Formula program. Enter code PLU for $500 off your tuition of the program when paid in full. So what are you waiting for? Head over to privatelabeluniversity.com and sign up today.
We now return to the Private Label University with your hosts, Karen and Neil Gortzman on News Talk 710 KNUS.
So welcome back to the show. You're listening to Karen and Neil Gortzman with the Private Label University. Now, we were just talking to Scott Blizzard, who is a licensed U.S. customs broker and a wealth of information to anyone who wants information about how to import products into the USA, hassle-free.
Yeah, Scott was just going over how, there's so many details that you must know when you're in business and importing a product, and as a to be one of the great customs brokers, you really have to know what's going on. And Scott was saying how there's always things changing. So we just talked about being a license and hiring a customs broker. But I think a lot of people get confused these days because they hear the word customs broker, they hear logistics, they hear freight forwarders. So Scott, what is the difference between a freight forwarder and a customs broker?
Well, a freight forwarder will actually move a shipment from point A to point B, point C, on wherever it needs to go, final distribution. Customs broker is actually classifying merchandise and entering it through customs. It's like you're taking the passport and moving it over a border, where the freight forwarder is, say, the airplane that you're on. The customs broker is working with actually moving through that customs line to go into another country. Logistics pretty much encompasses everything. That would include the freight forwarders, customs brokers, trucking companies, anything that took something to get from a factory door to that ultimate purchaser. There's many that are integrated, UPS, FedEx, DHL. They're what we consider the integrators, express couriers. There's probably some other terms for them, but they're one in all in the same. Mm-hmm. They handle everything. Many of the freight forwarders have brokers on staff. Brokers will also have freight forwarding people on staff. So it really depends on how do they want to advertise their firm, and which are they more heavily is their business. Is it freight forwarding or is it customs brokerage? Some are pretty evenly split. And some just do one or the other. I simply move freight. I'm not going to be involved with your customs brokerage. You find a broker for that, and there's brokers that are simply brokers, and they will not touch the freight. Again, each has its own, sets of requirements, really. Mm-hmm. Brokers need to have their license and be aware of all the government compliance rules, import laws. Freight forwarding has other rules, the rules for the airlines, the rules for the steamships, the rules for hazardous materials movement. So both have their unique set of responsibilities.
So when a person starts a business, is it best to find one before you start your business and you start importing, or just to, wing it, so to speak? You start buying stuff and now I need a customs broker.
I will tell you, Neil, from my experience, I have seen it work both ways. Hands down, you want to do your research ahead of time, both with a freight forwarder and a customs broker. I have had calls where people said, I just returned shopping from such and such, and I've got this great product. It's going to be a big hit, and now what do I do? Well, boy, it's kind of late at that point. There's paperwork that needs to be filled out on the government's behalf that the broker and the freight forwarder would need. There's certain requirements that need to be made for ocean shipments. They have to have a filing done for security purposes before it left that foreign country. If it's already here, you're already looking at a possible $5,000 penalty, which is a lot. If you're starting out, that's a big hit to take up front.
So are there different types of brokers for different commodities, or do most brokers cover all types of products?
Well, most brokers will cover most general commodities. Now, when you get into things like automobiles, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, those are highly specialized, even textiles. You're probably, if you're in I don't know why I think it would be difficult for a startup company to be importing pharmaceuticals, but say you'd want to go for research and find one of the brokers. There's a couple large national ones that are noted for handling pharmaceuticals. The same thing with automobiles. There's a lot of, there's obviously a lot of regulation for importing something that expensive. The duties would be high, and there's a lot of government agencies involved with an automobile. We've mentioned some of them, not only Customs. You've got the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. You've got the Department of Transportation. You've got the EPA, so on and so forth. You do want to find, a specialist, a broker that specializes in certain commodities. Steel products is another one. We have so much anti-dumping on those because of, putting American jobs out of business. Things are changing with that on a daily, weekly basis. You do want someone that knows what they're doing. Now, if you're talking, a purse, a handbag, shoes, general consumer commodities, everyone pretty much can handle them. But when you get into some of the, higher, more expensive industrial type goods, you probably want to search out for a broker that specializes in that particular area.
Scott, you mentioned pharmaceutical.
You're doing everyone a favor.
You mentioned pharmaceuticals. Is that including vitamins and herbal supplements and stuff like that?
Well, no. I'm thinking more of the prescription medication types that require pre-approval from the Food and Drug Administration and other technical things I really don't want to go into. It's highly technical. On supplements, yes, it is something that is controlled by the FDA, but again, if you're not making a medical claim on your packaging or literature, then you don't have to worry about some of the FDA regulations. Yes, it does need to be, that FDA needs to be notified that it's coming in the country, so there's a record of it. It needs to clear through the FDA, but it's not a process such as a pharmaceutical drug type of thing would be.
Right, right.
Wow, so with the billions of dollars of supplements and all the different, items directed with supplements, it's that must be a pretty confusing area, not just for you, but for the government as well, as far as setting legislation and laws, because then people, can consider it a food product instead of a supplement. It's kind of a gray area, isn't it?
It's a very gray area, and that law was, I want to say 20, 25 years ago, where it made supplements not controlled by the subject to notification to the FDA, but not controlled as far as research and pre-approval and so on that a drug would be.
Right.
There's an approval process. It's very expensive. From my understanding, it can be hundreds of thousands of dollars to get,
So it really comes down to experience. I think, the more years you have, that you put in, and at least we know that when someone's looking for a customs broker, the more experience in years that broker has been involved in the industry and with commodities, I think that's what sets most customs brokers apart. When I guess if you're starting one, looking to find one, you have to find one. Scott, did we lose you? Are you still there? I know there's some heightened security on this call with Mr. Blizzard. Let's just see if he's still on there. We'll try to get him back on.
Mm-hmm.
But, the key is here, there's so many people that are getting involved, retailers and online sellers in the physical product business. You really have to know and have someone on your team that knows what they're doing.
Especially there's so many categories that people can get involved in that, I mean, if you don't know what you're bringing in and you don't know what the rules are.
Right, because all those products, anything that gets imported or exported into the country falls under a classification. That classification is set with rules and regulations and laws, and there's documentation that has to be filed prior to even the shipments coming in. And once the shipments land here, you have to make sure that you have all that documentation filed with the government, filed with U.S. Customs, Homeland and Security. And not only does your broker have to have it, but you have to make sure that you have a broker who's up to date filing that for you, because if you have a product that you may have signed, well, if he didn't send in the proper paperwork, then, Customs isn't going to go back and say, they hold you accountable. You're the company. You're the consignee. You're the person that ultimately is going to be held responsible. And, just as a customs broker is there to help you, you have to make sure when you're choosing that broker that they have that experience. And the best thing is ask them how long they've been in business, because sometimes, some of these big brokerage firms, and like Scott mentioned earlier, there's a lot of freight forwarders that hire U.S. customs brokers. The big companies like FedEx and UPS somewhat have on hand, but they may be, maybe they're just working for 2 years or 1 year as a broker, and they don't have that experience. And again, there's so many changes going on all the time, rules and regulations. And if you're not staying up to date with that, then again, you're held accountable, and there's hefty fines. I stay up to date reading all the documents and all the journals surrounding customs and legislations and rules and new laws that are set in, and I can't believe, they're always being implemented. And again, it's up to the responsibility of the importer to make sure that they're up to date, that they're notified. If you're going to get involved with, let's say, cosmetic brushes, that certain hairs of that cosmetic brush are actually not allowed into the country. And the ones that are allowed, you actually have to have documentation. You have to make sure that you file it. There's fish and wildlife that even get involved. And, you have to make sure you have a customs broker that's aware with filing all those documents, or making sure you're working with factories overseas that are approved. That you know the conditions of the factory and where they're buying that material from, because a lot of times if they import some of that raw material and put claims on the manifests or on the bill of ladings or on the invoices that it's a different type of material, well, if Fish and Wildlife decide to inspect it and see that it's not, you're held accountable and you are responsible, because you're not supposed to be doing that. And I know, for example, there's Kalinsky sable, which is a particular hair from the sable family, the weasel family, very hard to find. They breed them in different countries, and, they've set laws where there's only a certain amount that's allowed to be imported. And only certain factories, from what I'm told, are actually allowed to use it, because they have to have the proper conditions to use that material to make the brushes. So they've set different laws where Fish and Wildlife and CITES Acts and all these different categories that have to be involved to make that product. So it's very, very important when you're choosing a customs broker to make sure that they're up to date on what they're doing. And again, Scott had mentioned earlier about anti-dumping. There's many different, again, that's another term that people may hear about once in a while, but really don't know about it. And again, it falls under different classifications and categories of materials that demand special classification and documentation and filing. And you actually have to notify the government. You have to notify U.S. Customs and Homeland Security that you're going to be importing this product. And the best thing is, of course, before you even decide to get into that type of business, whether if it's a physical product industry or a product line that you're looking at, and ask a customs broker or call up, the government and ask them, where does this fall? What category does this fall under? because if it happens to fall under an anti-dumping act, then you want to make sure that you're working with a manufacturer and someone else that knows about these rules. So very, very important.
And there's protocol. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't bring the product in.
No, it doesn't mean that you can't import it, but there's heavy, heavy duties. And again, when you start bringing in sensitive materials, the government starts watching, saying, hey, who is this company? What are they doing? Why are they importing those products? And they check, they'll want to check up on your company. They might send a customs official out to your company to inspect it, to see what it is. And if you're staying up to date, that's great, because U.S. Customs likes to work with companies and importers that are following the laws. And they don't want to make it difficult for you. They just want to make sure that you're abiding by all the laws and rules and regulations.
Mm-hmm. So let's take a quick break here. We'll get Scott back on the line. We are Karen and Neil Gortzman with the Private Label University, and we're going to be right back after this short message.
I'm Mona Rivera. Residents in Rosenberg, Texas, east of Houston, have to evacuate their homes beginning at 2 p.m. this afternoon. Authorities issued the mandatory evacuation order because of severe flooding from the Brazos River. 4 people have been swept away and killed by Texas floodwaters. On the southeast coast, Bonnie has been downgraded to a tropical depression. It's dumping a lot of rain in Georgia and South Carolina. Forecasters say that Bonnie is weakening as it comes ashore and will likely be mostly a rain event. A 4-year-old boy is recovering at a hospital after falling into the gorillas pit at the Cincinnati Zoo. Cincinnati Zoo Director Thane Menard says that officials shot and killed the gorilla and rescued the boy.
They did the right thing, and yet it's a difficult day. The zoo's in the business of taking care of endangered animals, and we certainly don't want to be in a situation where they have to be killed.
The boy is hospitalized with injuries described as serious but not life-threatening. This is ABC News.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
Many of us have been ignoring the latest news about the harmful effects of sugar. Why? Because we don't want to give up our yummy chocolates, cookies, and pizza. What if there was a way that you could eat healthier and not have to give any of the guilty pleasures of sweets and pizza up? RecipeForWellness.com is a company run by Karen Russell, who is a world-renowned certified health coach and nutritionist with over 20 years experience working with the most challenging health issues facing our society. Karen Russell has created products that are not only incredibly delicious, but also healthy to eat. Karen's most popular sweet treats are her pecan cookies and delicious brownies. She uses natural ingredients that are healthy and healing. If you're ready to lose weight, increase your energy levels, sleep soundly, take control of your health, and not have to give up the sweets, then check out Karen's company, RecipeForWellness.com, and start living a healthier life without the guilt. Again, that's Wellness.com.
Wondering what's next on Wall Street? Maybe it's time to take a different approach to investing with Brad Jenkins of Jenkins Wealth.
So even when the markets do get volatile, because of our strategy, I help to take the guesswork out of it. So I'm never sitting there going, what should we do? What do you think? There's no thinking or feeling. It's a methodical, non-emotional approach.
Join us Sunday afternoons at 1 o'clock for the Brad Jenkins Show, making sense of making money on 710 KNUS.
If you currently use a CPAP system, I've got an important question for you. Are you sure you're keeping your CPAP system clean enough? Like, really sure? A dirty CPAP system is a perfect breeding ground for germs. Put that mask on, and they've got a direct line to your body. Talk about a good way to get sick. Fortunately, SoClean.com has released the world's first and only automated CPAP cleaner and sanitizer. It kills 99.9% of all CPAP germs in minutes. To introduce it to the world, they want you to try it risk-free for 30 days. Just call 1-800-600-0831. With SoClean, you never have to clean your machine by hand again. There's no water, chemicals, or disassembly. Just pop in your mask, close the lid, and presto, your CPAP system is clean and fresh in minutes. Call SoClean.com to try it risk-free at home for 30 days. Supplies are limited, so don't wait. Call 1-800-600-0831. 1-800-600-0831.
Hi, it's Peter Boyles. We spend the equivalent of 10 days a month on our mattress. We spend more time using our mattress than any other single product we own. I got my new Inopedic mattress from Innomax. Positively impacted my life. You sleep well. You just feel better. Innomax, get a variety of support choices, combined comfort options, each category to choose from. Premium, advanced gel, latex, air suspension, memory cell, even organic latex. All are available with customized power bases like the one I got. Visit my friends at Innomax, 1-800-INNOMAX. Great directions, 1-800-INNOMAX.
Private Label University with your hosts, Karen and Neil Gortzman on News Talk 710 KNUS.
So for those of you just joining us, we are Karen and Neil Gortzman, and you're listening to the Private Label University, where we unlock the secrets each week to your online selling success. So we have Scott Blizzard back with us on the line. Thank you for joining us. He is your go-to when it comes to importing products into the U.S.
Yeah, he's probably one of the top U.S. licensed customs brokers in the nation. And, we were just talking with Scott about how really it's necessary if you're starting a business or in business to make sure that you have a customs broker with years and years of experience who's up to date on all the laws. So, Scott, at what stage, if I'm starting a business, or let's say I have a business, I'm a retailer, and I go to one of those sites online like Alibaba or AliExpress, and I buy some products, how do I know if I need a customs broker? When do I decide if I need one?
Well, I would suggest any time that you're going to do that and import something into the country, that you would engage the services of a customs broker. There is some value cutoffs if it's a very low value shipment. It comes by a FedEx, a DHL. They have extra special rules that apply to the couriers where they don't necessarily go through a full customs clearance process. And you think, great, I have my goods, everything's great. Well, we see this happen again frequently. Down the line, could be a couple months, it could be several years. Customs says, well, wait a minute, FedEx, I think this should be classified differently, or, well, this can't be the value. That's too inexpensive. It has to be a higher price than that. Customs will go to that courier company and say, find out. They don't have a record of it. It actually went to you, Mr. or Mrs. Retailer.
So is it based on a product that I buy or on the value of the product?
Well, it could be both. It could be based on who it was shipped from. It could be based on the country that it came from. There's many different ways that customs will ask for information, depending on many different variables.
Right, but then that kind of worries me. If you mention that, with DHL and FedEx, a lot of the air companies are getting all these small shipments in, and customs isn't inspecting all of those, is that really safe? Is it just because of the sheer volume it's impossible to do?
That is correct. It's impossible to do. Customs has gone through a reorganization, just several months ago in March, so that they can better address the issue of the small, lower value, high volume things coming through the couriers. How that will end up in the future, not really sure yet. The commissioner himself, the U.S. Customs Commissioner, has admitted that this is an area where they are falling short, and they need to they need to reevaluate how they're handling this whole process.
Yeah.
Knowing that there's many things slipping through into the country that perhaps needed another agency's approval, such as FDA.
Right.
Or maybe there's an admissibility problem. Maybe it was not marked in the way it's supposed to be with the country of origin. They're simply getting through, and they know. So it is something they're looking at. I will say, from being a customs broker and having clients, that yes, everyone uses not only a broker or freight forwarder for small value, low value, small shipments. They need it, in a hurry. Sure, they're going to send that, say, again, FedEx or UPS, something of that nature. It is not uncommon for those importers to come to me several weeks later and go, oh, I got this request from FedEx. What are they talking about? Well, they're asking for more information, because even though it cleared and you got your product, Customs on the backside reviewed it and said, wait, there might be a problem here. This might be subject to FDA. It might be subject to anti-dumping duties, any of the things we've talked about. The value appears too low. So just because you have something does not mean that Customs won't be looking at it in the future.
Right, and I think that's so important to know. We tell all our clients, and at our Private Label University, we teach our students that, again, choosing, when you're going into the physical product industry or you're a retailer and you're choosing a product, you just can't rely, for example, like you mentioned, all these products coming through DHL and FedEx Air and UPS Air, and they have customs brokers there, but you don't know how much experience they have. You don't know who they are. It's just some guy behind a desk who's filling out the forms, and, they may be calling you and saying, what is this? We don't know what it is. But if you choose a customs broker, that has the experience and knows what they're doing, it'll just less headaches. Nobody wants any headaches, and we teach our students, if you're going to be in business, do it right.
And even some of them I've heard, just on forums, on Facebook, and just from people from events that we've done where they rely on Alibaba sources, using their, freight forwarder
their brokers
or
and their freight forwarders,
brokers, exactly. And I mean, you don't know what you're getting, and how are you trusting these companies? On Alibaba, you don't even know them. You haven't even built relationships with them.
Right. Some company in China who manufactures spatulas and says, oh, don't worry, just put it through as a wooden spoon. Well, it's not a wooden spoon, so it's going to be classified differently than a silicone spatula.
That is correct. Let me add in here that Customs has gone to a new computer system that's been way too many years in the making. But they've gone to a new computer system, and it is capturing more information and requiring more information to clear shipments. This is what we see. We don't even know on the customs side what they see, although from what I hear, and again, it's not something they're going to share with us because of, security concerns, that they get a lot more information as well. Things that you just mentioned, a spatula, before, yes, it's subject to FDA, but FDA didn't want to look at it because it's a spatula. Guess what? Now that has to be reported to the FDA, and FDA has to approve that spatula coming in the country. So if you're misclassifying it or putting it through a FedEx or something and it's not caught, then yes, in the end you could be liable for, I don't want to use the word fraud. It's not, that I don't think extreme, but for an improper import.
Right.
You just don't want to be held responsible for that. Let me get back real quickly to this is why you should use a broker. Don't trust someone in a foreign country to do a job that's in the United States. We, licensed brokers in the United States, we know how to classify the merchandise. We know what questions to ask. We can tell you what possibly could be asked of you, and so you're ready for it. Again, if it's sent and, well, you never know. And it happens, and I'm not saying that the FedEx and DHL and UPSs and other couriers don't try. Certainly they do, but the volume there is so great. For instance, I have seen where there's technical aspects to the tariff where perhaps a bracelet made out of a cord is not really an article of jewelry. Well, working with a customer, client, we would know what their product is and know how to classify that correctly in what chapter of the tariff. The courier just sees the word bracelet and puts it in at jewelry, which is a higher duty rate, and it's also just flat out wrong. Working with a broker, you would know, you'd feel more comfortable that things were getting classified and entered correctly, meaning there's just less problems for you during a customs audit.
Right, because ultimately it's you're held responsible. It's not the broker, but the person who's importing is held responsible.
Oh, the importer, under the Customs Modernization Act of 1994, importers are responsible for the proper entry and anything else to do with their imported merchandise. The broker is a middleman. They should have a good working relationship with their broker. But yes, the importer is ultimately responsible under the law. There is no finger pointing. There used to be a lot of finger pointing. Well, my broker did this or that. Unless you have a specific contract entered saying that my broker is responsible for my classification, my broker is responsible to keep all records for me, my broker, so on and so forth, which most brokers will not do. They might for, Walmart and the big boys out there. But that's a different story.
And that's great.
As far as we're all concerned,
mm-hmm.
Yes.
And that's great advice. And, we have a lot of clients that are international as well, importing into Europe. And, again, the same thing applies. Make sure that, you're using a broker that's for your country and that's able to help you through all the necessary steps that are involved. And even for the Europeans that are bringing in, importing into the U.S. still, to make sure that you have the proper customs broker that's going to help you import from whether it's China right into the U.S. Doesn't matter if you live in Europe. You want to make sure that you have the right customs broker working with you. So we need to take a quick break. This is probably a good place to break. When we come back from the break, we're going to revisit this question because I think this is really, really important. We are Karen and Neil Gwartzman. We are the Private Label University, and we will be right back.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
Would an extra $1,000 a month, $5,000 a month, or even $10,000 a month help you live a better life? It doesn't have to stop there. People just like you are making thousands of dollars selling products on Amazon. The best part is, it's simple. All you need is a product. Karen and Neil Gwartzman, creators of Private Label University, are here to show you how. How to find that perfect product so you can join millions of people and start making the money that everyone is talking about on Amazon. Private Label University unlocks 35 years of secrets about sourcing, importing, and private labeling products for big chain stores. Karen and Neil truly believe in you. So much that they'll invest $500 towards your tuition in the Private Label University program, the Import Success Formula. Go to Karen and Neil's website at privatelabeluniversity.com and enroll in the Import Success Formula program. Enter code PLU for $500 off your tuition of the program when paid in full. So what are you waiting for? Head over to privatelabeluniversity.com and sign up today.
Are you ready to kick that sugar addiction, reduce belly fat, and still enjoy delicious sweets and breads? Yes, it is possible. Recipe for Wellness is a company that is run by Karen Russell, a world-renowned certified health coach and nutritionist with over 20 years of experience working with the most challenging health issue facing our society. Karen has figured out the secret to a healthier life for all of us without sacrificing sweets, and offers very yummy products like cookies, brownies, and breads that are actually healthy for you. That's right, cookies and bread that are not only delicious, but healthy too. If you're ready to lose weight, increase your energy levels, sleep soundly, reduce stress, take control of your health, and not have to give up sweets or bread, then visit recipeforwellness.com. That's recipe, the number 4, wellness.com. Again, to shop online for delicious and healthy sweets, visit recipeforwellness.com. Start living your healthier life without guilt today.
We now return to the Private Label University with your hosts, Karen and Neil Gwartzman on News Talk 710 KNUS.
So for those of you who are just joining us, we are Karen and Neil Gwartzman, and you are listening to the Private Label University, where we unlock the secrets each week to your online selling success. So we are speaking with Scott Blizzard, who is educating all of us about the ins and outs of what to be aware of with regards to customs when importing products into the U.S.
Yeah, it's amazing how much Scott knows because, again, we've talked about earlier how, there's so many rules and regulations that any importer and any retailer has to follow if you're importing. And we were just, Scott was just mentioning how in every country you have different rules and regulations. And even if you live in Europe or Asia or South America and you plan on having a physical product business and ship into the U.S., you still have to have a broker in the USA who knows what they're doing, because you can't just ship the product here and expect it's going to go to, Amazon or a retailer or some other warehouse without knowing or following the rules of U.S. Customs and Homeland Security. Isn't that correct, Scott?
That is correct.
So I'm going to jump in. I get a question asked all the time. I know I hear about that. It's always recommended now. They've kind of changed the value of shipments, and if you keep them under $800 to avoid duty, you can just bring them in a lot faster. What are your thoughts on this? Does it actually avoid duties? Do I not have to pay anything? How does that work?
Certainly. Let me just rephrase it. I don't want to say that it's to avoid duty. It's to avoid having a formal customs entry. Whether it's a formal customs entry or an informal customs entry, it avoids an entry period for customs.
Can you explain quickly what that means?
What does it mean? What does an informal entry mean?
An informal entry is something that is valued between something that has no value, although everything has a value in customs eyes. So we'll say between a penny and $2,500. That is what customs would consider an informal entry. It's not scrutinized as much, provided it's a general commodity. Again, you're not going to bring in nuclear weapons and call it an informal entry, something of that nature. It does not require a customs bond, so it's saving money. You don't have a bond, and it's.
So you don't need what they call a power of attorney either?
You do. A broker's going to want a power of attorney just to be safe.
Okay.
To do that. Anything that they're doing on behalf of a client, they will want a power of attorney for. Just to be safe. You never know how the auditors are going to feel, 5, 6 years from now, even 2 years or 6 months from now. So it's only a broker will ask you for that. Now, a formal entry is anything over $2,500, requires a bond. Things are scrutinized more. There's a formal process. Customs can take up to a year to review your paperwork. So even though you have the merchandise, Customs can come up to a year later and say, oh, I think this was misclassified. I think it was misvalued. I think it came from a different country. Anything they want to inspect or find out more information about, they can do that. With an informal entry, that doesn't happen. Now, on your shipments that are valued $800 and less, they just go through Customs and basically get a stamp if you're standing at a Customs window. The couriers have ways to electronically transmit to Customs that these shipments are low valued, under $800, no entries made, and they're just cleared electronically, what we call cleared off the manifest, that courier's manifest for that plane. This used to be $200, and I think it was back in March, a couple months ago, earlier this year, the value was raised to $800, inflation, so on and so forth. Customs doesn't want to be bothered with low-value shipments. They're trying to get our trading partners, and especially Canada and Mexico, to do the same thing, so that the NAFTA countries at least have the same $800 flowing through the borders. No one wants to look at it. Canada and Mexico have not accepted that yet, so the U.S. is unique in this aspect right now.
So So you're saying that anything up to $800 is, I guess, considered a low value and not really scrutinized by Customs. So between $800 and $2,500, it's looked upon, or not until it reaches over $2,500?
Again,
so for example, if I have a shipment for $1,000,
right?
Is it then looked at because it's over the $800 value?
It needs to have paperwork filed with Customs. Are you talking through a broker or a courier now?
Well, for example, I'm on Alibaba. I order some products. It's arranged through DHL Air, and the value is $992. Do I need a broker?
So at that point, it does need to clear through Customs, yes. It depends on your terms of sale. I am familiar with Alibaba, but I don't know their selling terms. If they sell something, they might have a company in the United States that clears Customs for that product, and you're basically receiving it as a Customs-cleared domestic product, if you will. I don't know if that is for everything, or if sometimes it's sent to you, and you are now the importer of record, and yes, if it's over $800 and under $2,500, entry still needs to be filed with Customs, and duty needs to be paid on it. This is not a, under $800, I don't need to make any declaration to Customs. A declaration does need to be made to Customs, and it is considered an informal Customs declaration. No bond required. You're just notifying Customs that it's here. I'm importing whatever I'm importing. Here's the duty. I'm paying you X amount of dollars for duty on it, and give me my merchandise and let me go on my way.
So what would stop someone then from just every single week bringing in a shipment that's under $800 just to not
stay under the radar, so to speak?
Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but right now there is not anything stopping someone from doing that. I will say in the most recent comments that I have read, again, from our U.S. Customs Commissioner, that this is something that Customs is looking into. There has been just a little quick, backtrack here. When the U.S. decided to make the $800 value limit the cutoff point for not making a Customs entry, if you will, or declaration, apparently a lot of business started shifting into Canada for warehousing goods in bonds. So they didn't clear Customs in Canada, but they were sent over the border in $800 increments or less over multiple shipments over multiple days to avoid making Customs declarations and duty payments.
Isn't that illegal?
It's not illegal.
Or it's on that gray area.
Yes, I was going to say. Customs is considering this a gray area. Yeah. And again, one of the things on e-commerce they want to look into and finalize, some rules. And I don't know if they didn't expect this to happen or people found a way around a barrier, but they realize that it's probably not the way things should work. And they're not saying too much on it, and I can't really read into it too much. But Customs is aware of this, and I can say they're checking into it. Now, does that mean they're going to have a solution in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years? I really don't have an idea. I, again, think they're very busy with their new computer system and all the glitches and working out bugs and, trying to get that up. They're mandated. There's certain dates throughout the rest of the year that they have to meet their milestones, and there is no extensions anymore. So I think these other things will probably go on the back burner until the end of the year. That's my best guess.
But it's still something that people should be worried about, because you still can go and backdate and go back in time and say, hey, this was something that was anti-dumping, for example, and I'm going to go back in
Correct.
time and look and see. So even though it may be under the radar, they can get away with it now, it's still something to be worried about, because when they do get their act together and they start focusing in on what's going on with this, you're going to be a target, and then people, they're going to go backtracking, and you don't want to be held reliable for that.
And that's how we explain to our students all the time, where you're in business, you have to be honest at what you're doing. You have to know it's for long term. If you're just in short term to make a few bucks and try to bring some stuff under the radar, it's that's not what we teach. We teach being in business for long term. Learning the rules, learning the regulations, aligning yourself with the people in your company, with customs brokers and freight forwarders who know what they're doing. And like you say, we see some of these people online trying to teach these programs. They say, just bring in little shipments so no one notices who you are. Well, why would you want to do that? You
it's under that 800 radar. Stay under there and just do under 800, and you can do it every single week. And this way you can
that's not the way to go about business.
But once they start catching on to what's going on, you don't want to be with that one targeted as well.
Right.
So actually, we're going to be wrapping up the show in a few minutes here. What advice could you give our listeners? Number one thing that people need to really, really know when they're going to be importing products.
Well, no surprise here, Karen. I'm going to say do your homework ahead of time. Talk with a broker. You're thinking of importing a product. You're thinking of designing a product and having it imported. Talk with your broker. There might be some things you can do. It's called tariff engineering to obtain a lower duty rate. Now, that's not cheating. If you design a product, it still has the same function and look that you want, but maybe a feature is different and it can throw it in a different duty category. Nothing illegal about that, and it's not a gray area. You've done your homework. You might think, oh, well, these are all over the place. Great. We've mentioned a couple times anti-dumping duty, which is a whole other story, but it's enough to put people out of business if you do it wrong. So I would certainly say do your homework, and especially if there's going to be other government agencies involved, and people aren't always aware that other government agencies might be involved. So a broker would be able to help you and guide you to work with those agencies so that when your product finally gets here, it's smooth sailing. The last thing you want to do is pay storage bills or have your product not be admitted into the country and have to pay for its destruction or return to where it came from.
Right, so liquidation, I guess, is that seizure and liquidation?
Well, liquidation is when Customs is done looking at your shipment, about a year after you've imported a formal entry. They've closed the book on it. They won't ask any questions unless it's under a fraud investigation. Then they can reopen that case, so to speak. Sorry, the seizure, did you mention seizure?
Yeah, so I'm just going to say, so you like you mentioned, you really have to do your homework when you're in business. And, I just going to kind of wrap up here. Scott is a wealth of information. We are so honored to have had Scott Blizzard on the phone. He's a U.S. licensed national customs broker expert. He's really the go-to person in the nation for any information. If you want to contact Scott or reach him, please reach out to us at the Private Label University. We have his contact information there. Due to heightened security,
we'd love to give you the opportunity to get more information. So absolutely visit us over on our website at www.privatelabeluniversity.com, because we'd love to hear from you, and you can pick our brains as well.
Yeah,
so Scott, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We are again honored that you were on our show. It's an absolute pleasure. And again, for everyone who's listening, I'm sure people are sitting there writing notes and taking information, because
so much information.
You're kind of like the encyclopedia of customs. So thank you so much again. And Karen, do you have any other questions for Scott? Because it's just she's like, oh my God, what else?
It went by so fast. I have so many questions. We're going to have to do this again.
Yeah, no, definitely. We're going to have to get Scott back on the show, because We get so many emails all the time and people calling us, and from our clients, and even in the program we teach in our Import Success Formula, we're always teaching about the necessity of customs brokers and everyone else.
So again, thank you again. We are Karen and Neil Gortzman. We are the Private Label University.
I wanna be a billionaire so freaking bad.
Thank you for joining Karen and Neil Gortzman at 710 KNUS, the Private Label University, the only show that dares to unlock the secrets to your online selling success so you can start making money and living your dreams. Remember to visit us over at www.privatelabeluniversity.com for tons of free content. While you're there, leave us a message and we'll air your comments and questions on the show. Listen to us every Sunday at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. The dynamic duo, Karen and Neil, are now signing off.